Hi, my name's Jeff Isles. I'm a senior at the University of Delaware, and my obscure but phenomenal moment in Black American history is when Lewis L. Redding became Delaware's first African American lawyer, how it happened, and what happened afterwards. Lewis Redding was born in 1901 in Virginia at his mother's family home, but grew up near Wilmington's East Side. The East Side was the area of the city where the black population lived. He and his sister both graduated from Howard High School and were the first graduates to go to Ivy League schools. He went to Brown and she went to its sister school, Pembroke, in Rhode Island, where they accepted black undergraduates. Lewis graduated from Brown, winning an award for distinguished oratory and a speaking spot at commencement. Gwendolyn, by this time, was pursuing her studies at Howard University in D.C. Papa Lewis Redding was a firm believer that everyone in the family had to contribute to the success of all members. And though Lewis was anxious to jump right into law school, Papa insisted he work and earn money to send home for his younger siblings' educational pursuits. As a result, Lewis first got work as a teacher in Florida and then in Georgia, where he taught at Morehouse College before gaining permission to apply to Harvard Law School 2 years later. Although Lewis wasn't first at Harvard, he was close. Lewis Redding was only the second black man to earn a Juris Doctorate. He was also one of 298 men, where, you guessed it, he was the only black man that year in 1928. And while Lewis dreamed of staying and pursuing clients and a career in the Northeast nearer to his colleges, Papa Redding had a different vision in mind for his firstborn. Again, he leaned upon Lewis to return to Wilmington and Delaware to break the color barrier of the state bar and fight for justice in his hometown. As Lewis worked, taking any and all the cases he could to establish himself, his pursuits bumped into the Great Depression, which saw all the Reddings return to the family home to pull together and weather the economic storm. Lewis remained busy because of the trouble the Depression caused so many, but needed to supplement his income by writing briefs for white lawyers who were willing to pay for his excellence. It was around this time he got involved with the NAACP, which Papa was a big part of in Wilmington. He soon became the chapter's legal counsel and would remain so for nearly the remainder of his career. This is the connection that got him involved with Thurgood Marshall and the national efforts by the NAACP's Legal Defense and Education Fund, which Marshall helmed, and would see them argue together before the Supreme Court against the separate but equal doctrine of Plessy versus Ferguson. The first of Redding's three most famous cases was in 1950, Parker versus the University of Delaware. 30 black students were denied admittance on racial grounds. 10 of them pursued a legal remedy with Redding as their lawyer. The AG of Delaware argued the university was a private school, although it received public funds. He argued that under Plessy versus Ferguson's ruling of separate but equal, the black students should attend the separate but equal Delaware College in the southern part of the state. Redding and Jack Greenberg, a lawyer sent to assist from the NAACP, proved with meticulous documentation that the two institutions were anything but equal. The judge in the case, Vice Chancellor Collins Seitz, visited both campuses to assess the conditions for himself. In his ruling, he stated they were clearly unequal and that Delaware College was grossly deficient in every way. He ruled that because the university was indeed a public institution, its refusal to admit the 10 black students on the grounds of race, it had created a class and therefore must abide by the Constitution and admit the students. It also meant the university could no longer use color as a consideration in its admittance policy. The university decided not to appeal the case, and as a result, the University of Delaware became the first Southern university and first state-funded undergraduate institution in the country to desegregate following a court order. 2 years later, he took up the cases of 2 schoolgirls who were denied transportation and admittance to their local and closer schools because of their race, in Gebhardt versus Belton and Gebhardt versus Beulah. A number of other families joined the suit after their children were also denied admittance by Claymont High School. Gebhardt, the Attorney General, lost to Redding's arguments again before Seitz, who ruled for the families against the separate but equal argument. But Seitz looked to the Supreme Court to address another argument made by Redding and Greenberg. That was that the discrimination itself was harmful to black children, and because it hurt them in numerous ways, it violated the 14th Amendment's equal protection under the law clause. The battle was won again, but this time the Attorney General of Delaware appealed to the Supreme Court to halt the desegregation of Delaware's schools. As a result, the case was added to 3 other similar appeals, going before the Supreme Court as Brown versus the Board of Education, and Delaware's first black lawyer ends up arguing before the Supreme Court along with Thurgood Marshall and other esteemed attorneys, who went on to win the monumental ruling that separating children was harmful and that any language in Plessy versus Ferguson contrary to this finding is rejected. And finally, the Chief Justice Warren concluded with these words: "We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal." In 1999, the University of Delaware honored Redding by creating the Lewis L. Redding Chair, which is an endowed professorship in the study of law in the School of Public Policy and Administration. Its current chair, Leland Ware, has remarked, "It's a very significant event in the history of the university, and it sends a very strong and positive symbol to students in general, and African Americans and other minority students in particular." In 2013, a new residence hall was named after Redding. Then President Harker said, "In no small measure, Lewis Redding made us the university we are today. He showed us the path to diversity, equity, and inclusion, to justice and fairness for all. We think Lewis Redding deserves his name on a building, and we hope that the students who live in the building or visit it might be especially committed to sustaining this great man's legacy." And Dr. James N. Jones, past director of the university's Center for the Study of Diversity, said of Redding, "He couldn't come to UD, but he made it possible for others to come here. And we can't change the past, but we're looking forward to effectively improving the university and making it accessible to a broad range of people." And to that, I say, thank you, Lewis Redding.